Good evening and welcome to Thai PBS English News Service. I am Super Jonglin Suwan. Starting off with the weather, the Thai Meteorological Department is advising that a tropical depression in the South China Sea is moving towards the tip of Indochina, increasing rain with isolated heavy falls and strong winds.
Prawit Jampanya, a director of the Central Weather Forecast Division, said that the tropical depression over the South China Sea is moving towards the Gulf of Thailand and is bringing with it increased rainfall and stronger winds to the lower northeast, the central region, the east and the south of Thailand between November 15th to the 17th. The depression is expected to pass the overtip of Indochina tomorrow and cross into Thailand in Prachuap Khiri Khan province on November the 16th. The Hydro and Agro Information Institute said that after the tropical depression slowly passes the tip of Indochina tomorrow, it will cause scattered showers in the green area and heavy rainfall in the red and yellow areas. On November 16th, there will be heavy rain in Surat Thani province. On November the 17th, the heavy rain is expected from about 7 p.m. in the red areas such as Prachuap Khiri Khan, Chumphon, Surat Thani, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Pathalung, and Narathiwat. Meanwhile, a number of offshore oil platform companies in the Gulf of Thailand have already evacuated their employees as a precautionary measure. Somchai Baimuang, a deputy director of the Thai Meteorological Department, said that evacuation of employees is a safety measure needed when the storm passes the Gulf.
Moving on to politics, anti-government protesters are expected to rally again for the second time in 2 weeks from now, but insist they will not close down nor surround any government buildings as feared, while also asking the police to protect their demonstrators. The government is now worried about the involvement of a third party causing violence in the demonstration.
Deputy Prime Minister Chalerm Yubamrung says the gathering of the Kum Pitak Siam or Siam Protection Group, scheduled for the 24th of this month, a day before Parliament is convened, is pretty much being staged by the same group of people who motivated the 2006 coup d'etat. The Deputy Prime Minister is worried that there are those who are against this movement, and they may take the opportunity while this group is out in the open to stage attacks. However, the government assures that the protesters will be taken care of by police, both in uniform and undercover. The anti-government group says it will not close down any government buildings, especially Parliament or Government House, as some groups of protesters have done in the past. However, Parliament will have an emergency exit for the cabinet members and pro-government MPs if protesters do surround the compound. A cordon of 300 police will ensure the MP's safety, while a force of 50,000 officers will be deployed around the protests. Meanwhile, the red-shirt protesters have moved their press conference to declare their stance regarding this politically motivated group from today until Friday. Initial comments were that the red shirts would not intervene or incite violence towards the anti-government protesters.
And moving to protesters down south, locals in Phang Nga province have closed shipping routes and roads to protest against a naval base for imposing overly strict measures by arresting illegal migrant workers. However, the protesters dispersed earlier today after submitting a petition to the governor and naval commander.
Over 100 boats anchored in the main access channel to the Phang Nga 3rd Region Naval Base, blocking all boats from going in and out of the area. This is to protest against the 3rd Region Naval Base in Phang Nga for arresting illegal immigrants working on fishing boats. Fishermen claim the Navy is imposing measures which are too strict. Others were crying double standards, claiming some boats were not checked for illegal activities by the Navy. On top of anchoring their vessels, a number of truck operators, also working with the fishing companies, have used their vehicles to block the main road in front of the naval base. Many tourists who were scheduled to fly back home missed their flights. However, after submitting a petition to the Phang Nga governor and Region 3 naval commander regarding their claims, the protesters dispersed.
And today, the Central Administrative Court finished questioning the Ombudsman as the petitioner over the 3G auction transparency issue, while the National Broadcasting and Telecommunications Commission, or NBTC, sent their legal team to observe the interview. The meeting of the 11-strong NBTC committee today did not include the 3G auction in their agenda.
The Central Administrative Court revealed that the urgent inquiry session today with the Ombudsman was completed on the latter's petition to the court to consider whether there was a free and fair competition at the NBTC's auction of the 2.1 gigahertz spectrum slots on October the 16th, and also seeking an injunction to suspend temporarily the NBTC's plan to grant licenses to the 3 winning bidders. The Ombudsman's representative stated that the court has not requested any further documents for them. Meanwhile, the NBTC will be interviewed about the case tomorrow. The questioning will focus on the possible impact if the 3G license granted to the 3 leading mobile companies is temporarily suspended. The initial launch date is scheduled for January 18th next year. However, the 3G matter was omitted from the Telecom Committee's meeting agenda today, and Sutipon Tuichayakan, committee member of the NBTC's Telecom Committee, reasoned that it is because many departments are investigating the matter.
During U.S. President Barack Obama's visit to Thailand, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, will be one of the main discussions during his visit to Thailand. Dr. Rungtip Chodnapalai talked to Associate Professor Pairod Wong Wipanon, an economist from Thurakit Bandit University, who stressed that Thailand should carefully negotiate and be more aggressive in terms of financial liberalization.
Now that Thailand is part of ASEAN, of course that maybe the U.S. and China also look into strengthen the relationship and also trade relationship with this region. But how do we act so we have, can we take advantage on this?
As far as trade and foreign investment is concerned, Thailand has always welcomed foreign investor, and trade has been growing more important. The way Thailand should do, of course, you should decide the policy that will maximize.
Right.
We have not been aggressive, and in many other countries, like try to.
So that's one area that we have to move on, right?
Technology transfer, and the government have to play more aggressive role in fostering the private sector. R&D, research and development, science, technology, so on. I think we underspend, and the government play a little bit too passive role compared with countries like Singapore, Korea, and Taiwan.
So we have to be more aggressive in this area.
Yeah, you are right. And of course, strategically, Thailand is located in a very, very favorable position. Asia is growing, I think like that. So more important is trying to strengthen our institution. I mean, ASEAN is growing. China is becoming predominant in the world trade. So how much we can get from foreign trade, it depends on our capacity, our domestic absorptive capacity. And in this regard, it seems to me that it's not so much the foreign opportunity. External opportunity, there's so much, but in the past we have not been able to utilize the trade and foreign investment in such a way that the competitiveness of Thailand and productivity. Okay. That's why our income even below Malaysia.
From the U.S. coming a little closer to home, in China, at least 8% of nominees have been eliminated in the preliminary elections for candidates of members and alternative members of the 18th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, or CPC, and of the members of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, or CCDI.
The draft list of candidates for members and alternate members of the new CPC Central Committee and of candidates for members of the new CCDI were approved at the third meeting of the Presidium of the 18th CPC National Congress Tuesday morning. The meeting presided over by Hu Jintao decided to submit the draft list to the delegations to the Party Congress for deliberation. The Presidium's second meeting on Saturday approved the proposed nominees for members and alternate members of the 18th CPC Central Committee and members of the CCDI. Starting Sunday, delegations had been deliberating on the proposed candidates. Delegates held that the candidates were proposed on the basis of full intra-party democracy. The overall structure of candidates was reasonable, and the nominees have fine ethical and political quality, outstanding work performance, and high public support. On Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning, all delegations held meetings and carried out a preliminary election of candidates for members of the new Central Committee and of members of the new CCDI, as well as for candidates for alternate members of the CPC Central Committee. The preliminary elections were competitive with elimination margins of more than 8%. The preliminary elections were conducted under the supervision of scrutinizers in accordance with the election methods adopted at the Congress. The results of the preliminary elections are valid according to the Presidium's third meeting. Yesterday afternoon, the delegations will hold meetings to mull over the draft list of candidates for members and alternate members of the new CPC Central Committee and the new CCDI. The CPC adopted a preliminary election system at its 8th National Congress in 1956. At the 13th National Congress in 1987, it began to follow a competitive election system at preliminary elections. The elimination margins at preliminary elections for candidates of members of the 16th Central Committee and the 16th CCDI conducted in 2002 were about 5%, while the ratios expanded to more than 8% at the 17th CPC National Congress in 2007.
And this news is a big deal, in particular for us men. Doctors are warning men who inject olive oil into their genitals in an attempt to enlargement are facing very high chances of cancer and other sexual disorders.
Dr. Jongjet Aojenpong, head physician at the police hospital, has revealed that on a monthly basis, the police hospital is treating around 30 men suffering inflamed penises after injecting olive oil into their genitals. Injecting olive oil into sex organs will impede blood flow, destroying living tissue and increase the chances of infection. Urethritis is also common in these cases, while most worrying, there is an increased chance of these men becoming cancer patients. Dr. Jongjet said a large number of patients who had their penises enlarged with olive oil and are suffering adverse symptoms are shamed to consult with physicians. Half of those who show up have already had problems with their genitals for over 1 year.
And to celebrate as well as commemorate Professor Sin Pirasi, a founder and rector of Silapakon University, a group of his students have gathered as Pukan Kao, or Old Painting Brush in English, to set up an art exhibition to follow in his footsteps.
Professor Songkat Bunyasai, a 73-year-old member of Pukan Kao, or Old Painting Brush, has now returned to focus on creating works of art after he had retired from the advertisement business. He said the current art exhibition is the 5th after being set up for 8 years, celebrating their beloved Professor Sin Pirasi. The members of Pukan Kao consist of a number of elderly famous artists, including Professor Piamsuk Rian Rungrung, who brought 3 huge portraits to display using oil color techniques, and Professor Panom Suwannat, a former head of the Department of Printmaking at Silapakon University, who lived in the U.S. for several years, brought more than 10 abstract artworks to join the exhibition. Moreover, the artworks are still life of a flower vase using oil colors, the semi-abstract, landscape, and so on. Those who are interested can visit the exhibition, which is open until November 29th at the National Gallery of Thailand.
And that's all the time we have for tonight's edition of Thai PBS English News Service. I'll see you again tomorrow night. This is Super John Quinn Swan saying bye for now. สวัสดีครับ